one thing that I will add is that you shouldn't mistake nerves for readiness, because everyone gets nervous, like, but it's really your body like saying, I'm ready to go. Like, I know what's about to happen. We've done the work. Like, it's ready. It's time to go. It's kind of like when you're like really have to go to the bathroom.
Long car trip.
Been there. And you know that you're getting close to a toilet.
Body knows.
And
it gets worse and worse.
It gets worse and worse and worse.
You're like, I thought I could hold it for 10 more miles.
Yep.
But we pulled into the parking lot.
now that we're here.
Yeah, turns out I was wrong.
Welcome, everybody.
Everybody.
For another episode of Coaches on Couch.
Being slouches.
We slouched last week.
Yeah, we really slouched.
We're not here. We're getting prepped for this long course camp.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was a great time. It was 3 days of big volume and hard work, some good technical work, and I think everybody had fun and gained a ton from it. So hopefully we'll put on another one here maybe next year.
Next year. There was calls for a spring camp to kind of fire into the start of the season.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Something we'll explore.
So today we're talking about, man, this is a serious issue with a lot of people. We're talking about kind of that taper period and mastering tapering and managing a lot of times the temporary insanity that goes along with it. It never fails. It never fails. You get down to those last few weeks and you might have a little bit more time and you just lose your friggin' mind. And people just lose it.
You start questioning, second guessing. Yeah. Like, am I doing too little? Am I
too much? Too little? Too late?
Too late.
Yeah. So,
am I behind? Yeah.
We'll hop to it, and hopefully, especially all you guys rolling into Ironman Chattanooga and 70.3 Augusta, we can direct you to not make any dumb mistakes here in the next few weeks. So,
that's the goal.
I am Coach Dale Sanford.
And I am Coach Bryant Funston. We are the co-founders of BPC Performance Coaching, where we specialize in helping time-crunched athletes optimize their busy schedules so they can maximize their athletic performance. Every BPC coach is trained in our 5 Pillars coaching system, which has been developed over the last decade through our work with athletes of all ages and ability levels, from fresh off the couch to world championship competitors. You can find out more about BPC by going to buildpeakcompete.com, checking us out on Facebook and YouTube at buildpeakcompete, or all up on that Instagram at BPC Performance.
Boom.
Yahtzee.
Nailed it.
I barely even looked at the note thing. I just had it there as a backup, just in case.
All right, we're going to get to the topic of today, but first, as always, shout outs.
I'm going to kick it off on the shout out list.
Please do.
To the Sass Family for our long course camp that they were the hosts. They got an awesome place there, awesome facility. We named it the Winkler Performance Center.
Yep.
Pool, 25-yard pool, 2 lanes. Like, it was top notch. And Elvis, turns out, is an awesome cook as well.
Fantastic cook.
Great food, a great place. There was a huge kitchen for us all to that was like the congregation spot. Yeah. And it really made the camp, I thought. So shout out to them.
Yeah. So, it was kind of a family affair. Kirsten's brothers popped in to help here and there. And for those of you that don't know, Jeff, he's the Elvis every year at Memphis in May, and he's if you've been in the amateur ITU circuit, he's been Elvis at a few world championships and stuff like that. So dude can cook. Yeah. That is for sure. He kept us fed and entertained all weekend.
And he even dealt with the vegan over here.
Yeah. Well, he nailed it as far as healthy options here.
So shout out to the Sasses.
Yeah, for sure. And all the athletes that showed up for the camp.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It was massive volume, a lot of hills, and some really good technical work. So
yep.
Awesome. I got one last weekend. Johnny Pitts, our boy Johnny Pitts, finished his first Ironman, Wisconsin. The thing I can't stress enough that this guy is just motivated. I mean, in March of this year, he had a bad bike wreck, was broken to pieces. Basically, he scapula, several ribs, punctured lung. He stayed
collarbone or no?
No collarbone, thankfully.
Clavicle stayed in place. That's good.
He was in the hospital for 3 days, so we basically started over because it took a little while for him to recover and get the range of motion back in his arm and shoulder, and he basically worked through the pain a lot of times. And we did a lot of indoor training at first, but he got the work in and crossed the finish line.
Attaboy, Pitts.
Yeah.
I got another one. Downing, Dr. Downing.
Dr. D.
This was actually from 2 weeks ago, but since we missed last week, I've been saving this shout out. He was the overall fastest 20K man. He's now of the 20K age group. So he was the fastest 20K on the day. A new PR for him out there in New Mexico at the Record Challenge time trial.
Nice.
And the goal now for next year is like it has been every year. He's PR'd every year, and now it's like he wants to go faster. So next year we're dropping more time. We're gonna see how close he can get to the national record.
That's a good goal. Mm-hmm. That's a good goal. I got a couple more. Liz Hall. We keep saying, hey Liz, let me know when you can come in and get on the couch, because we've been saying it for over a year now. So.
Yep.
We'll talk a little bit about your progression, but hit a 10K PR. So
Boom.
Again, we've been coaching Liz for 5 years.
Been a while, yeah.
And she's still hitting PR. So
boom,
that's awesome. And,
keep on rocking.
Michele Weir, second female at the Degray Lake Duathlon this weekend over in Arkansas.
Excellent, cool.
All right,
now to the meat and potatoes.
I think that's trademarked. Don't say that.
Yeah. I'm a vegan anyway, so on to the kale and spinach.
There you go.
Of today's program.
Yeah, we're talking about tapering. So, truth be told, I'm not a huge fan of the tapering. Just the term tapering, just to me, it reeks of detraining. And people just sitting around and slouching on couches and stuff. And
it's pretty fun.
So, I mean, I would like to think of it more as
priming the system, freshening up, and priming the system,
getting into peak fitness.
Yep.
Just really the goal here is to get to the start line fit, fresh, healthy, and injury free.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people that within the last 2-3 weeks of a goal race will just squander that, making dumb decisions or losing their mind, which then causes bad decisions.
Yeah, this sport is very much a balance of mind and body. So if you're going mental about the whole thing, that can be a bad thing. But I would say the most important of those three, like fit, you've already done most of the work to get fit. The last three you mentioned, fresh, healthy, injury-free, like that should be your focus. Like don't do anything that's gonna cause you to get hurt, impact your health, or cause you to be overly tired going in. Those would be all bad things.
So let's talk about this period, and then we'll kind of get into the mental side of things in a second. So whenever we're making a program, our first thing, especially when there's a goal race on the calendar, we always start at the goal race and work backwards.
Correct.
And so by working backwards, you can always pre-plan, pre-work in this, like, I would say, I can't call it perfect because training never goes perfectly.
Oh, exactly.
But an ideal taper, you can work it in ahead of time. And so when you get there, there's no question about it. Where it's supposed to be, and if you're planning your training, at least the skeleton of your training, then you'll know that you're coming off this and you're supposed to be doing a taper type, phase. So make sure that you work backwards, plan it out, and you know when it's going to be. That's goal number one.
For sure.
So let's talk about kind of the breakdown of the weeks here. So there's a little confusion on what week is what. Our friends over at Training Peaks, they take the week, they don't necessarily count the week of the race because they're counting basically from race day backwards, not like the weeks on the calendar.
Yeah.
So personally, their 3 weeks out is my 4 weeks out. That's just know that I count race week.
Yeah, they're on a Monday.
Considering that most races are Saturday or Sunday.
Yes. They would count the Monday as like 3 weeks and 6 days or whatever, 5 days.
Yep. But then it only comes up on the thing
read
as 3
it as
weeks.
we still have 4 weeks essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. So
now that you're totally confused about that,
here we go.
Let's continue.
All right. So we'll use Ironman as an example along the way because we are so close to some of these big races that a lot of our athletes are doing. Mm-hmm. So 4 weeks out generally is the end of your big training load, like the massive volume. So a lot of our folks last week did 100-mile bike and maybe their 20-mile run. I'm not a huge fan of putting the longest bike and longest run on the same week because it's so demanding on your time and your, people have families and other stuff to do. So I'll generally put the longest bike the week before the longest run and then still have a pretty long bike.
Like 5 weeks out and then 4 weeks out.
Yeah, 5 weeks out will be like a 120-mile bike or 110, whatever they can get in, really. And then 4 weeks out, now we're at 100, but we're doing our 20-mile run that same weekend.
Stacked, yeah.
It's stacked. Mm-hmm. So you come off a massive load. Mm-hmm. Averaging, in this case, for long course, you're averaging anywhere from 16 to 20 weeks or 20 hours a week. And so once we've hit that kind of 3 week out period, there's a ton of built up fatigue. Mm-hmm. But what we don't want to do is come off the gas completely, throw in a recovery week, and then have to kind of ramp them back up to kind of knock the dust off. Because a lot of times, if you've ever done like big training or structured training, things happen on a recovery or after a recovery week. That's when I see a lot of people get sick. That's when it's like you've revved the body so high and then you just completely come off the gas to try to unload a bunch of fatigue, but it can do weird things. So what we're trying to do in the last 3 weeks is unload accumulated fatigue, but not have a massive drop in overall fitness. So if you're talking about numbers, we're numbers people, mm-hmm. And specifically on Training Peaks, if you're looking at accumulated fatigue or ATL, you're trying to get ATL to drop without a massive drop in CTL, which is your fitness. So that's the end goal of this whole taper, quote unquote, taper period. So 3 weeks out, you are going to see a drop in volume, but you still want to keep race-specific efforts. Race-specific efforts still have to be in your training plan. We're just going to keep. The taper, yeah, is filled with still race-specific work. Yeah, the entire way.
Yeah,
pretty much. So 3 weeks out, you're going to see probably about a 20% drop in volume. So 3 weeks from your race, 20% drop in volume. So a lot of my people this week are doing about 14, 15 hours, where they were doing 16 to 20. Again, you're still going to get a relatively long bike, a relatively long run. You should still be practicing your race nutrition, mm-hmm. your race hydration, your race efforts. Ideally, you're getting up at the same time when you're probably going to be racing and heading out on the bike when you're going to be heading out on the bike. The more you can simulate, the better. We're not getting rid of that stuff. I mean, the body learns, the body knows. So the more you can pile that into this last few weeks, the more readiness that you're gonna get, and your mind is gonna be more at ease because you've already done this a million times. Mm-hmm. So 3 weeks out, 20% drop. still race specific efforts. 2 weeks out, we're going to get another about 20% drop in volume. So next week, a lot of my folks will be doing somewhere between 10 and 12 hours, probably.
Which for that person is going to feel like not much.
Right. Yes. That's something to keep in mind, because if you're not doing long course, if you're on, you're doing shorter events that don't require massive volume, you may not even come off volume until 2 weeks out. Your volume may stay set until 2 weeks out. We're trying to be a little bit more geared toward long course in this conversation just because of what's coming up. But in that 2 weeks out period, so the week before the week of the race, just follow me. Now we're still doing race pace. We're just popping in more recovery.
Exactly.
The volume has come down.
Volume's dropped. Recovery between race pace efforts has increased.
Yep. This is generally where people lose their mind.
And this is where you keep your race pace efforts on the same days you were doing them. It doesn't mean like now you're doing race pace every single workout that you're doing.
Yep.
So kind of keep that similar flow that you had, that similar pattern. Most of the time our athletes are on a very similar schedule. Monday's typically the same week to week. Tuesday's the same week to week.
Yep.
From like, in the multi-sport realm, whether it's a bike run or swim strength or swim run or whatever it may be, keep that the same if you can. And then that you're dropping your overall training load and you're still keeping, the same days that it should be race pace.
Yeah. We try to keep structure, if at all possible, and it doesn't happen all the time with people's life schedules, but try to keep the weekly structure, as close to the same as possible, because people know they can get in certain things on certain days.
Exactly.
And then the efforts work, once we find that balance of recovery, easy days, harder days, yada, yada, don't change it, because that your body learns and will reward you with better performances because you're giving it consistency.
And exactly. That's what I was going to say. Increased consistency, because that, okay, it's Monday night, Tuesday morning, I know I've got whatever the workout may be. Right. You can plan accordingly and make sure you've got that. And you're also making sure, like you're getting the specific bike efforts. For a lot of my folks, Tuesday tends to be, like a harder effort day, whereas Thursday is not quite as hard from a bike specific standpoint. So we don't want you going to like every workout being hard, because you now dropped volume and you're worried you're going to lose fitness. So you just start making everything hard. Yeah.
That, like I said, the 2 weeks out is generally where people lose their mind as far as the training goes, because they feel like they're not doing enough. And then they go off the freaking rails and add more intensity. Or they're like, well, I did the workout and then I just felt like I needed to go do something. So I just went and spun for 2 hours. No.
At 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
When it's 108 heat index.
I came back 10 pounds lighter. I didn't hydrate as normal because I was just spinning. And
yeah.
So this is where
pain train.
Oh, pain train.
Come on, give us the horn.
It's going the wrong way, I think.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Never mind.
All right. So, this is where this 2 week period, 2 weeks out period, is where you just have to like woo-saw yourself, reel it in, and just follow the...
Did you say woo-saw?
Woo-saw.
What
you ever seen
woo-saw?
Woo-saw. You just rub your ears. Woo-saw.
Woo-saw.
Woo-saw. It's Bad Boys 2. You ever seen Bad Boys 2?
I guess I've
Come on, man. Give me a thumbs up for a Bad Boys 2 reference. So yeah, you just gotta like calm yourself down. You're not gonna lose fitness.
This is where the freshness starts coming about.
Yeah.
So the race pace stuff's keeping your fitness. You're keeping the system primed, but now you're freshening up the system, and it's going to help make sure you go in fit, fresh, healthy, and injury free.
So for people doing long course within this last 2 weeks, like really 10 days out is where like the major change comes. I would say like
if you look at when the science behind like a true taper, most of the time it's last 2 weeks to 10 days is when you start your true taper.
And the thing to note here is that while we're giving you advice, this is all still very individualized.
Oh, for sure.
This is just what works for a lot of people that we work with. So 10 days out is really where, and that kind of falls into that very last weekend, before the big race. So
yeah, it's like Wednesday through the weekend. And then if your race is, say, on a Saturday the following week.
Yeah. So that's where the change comes in, where you are going to have the volumes dropping, but you are going to have race pace in there. It's just not going to be a ton. And there's going to be a lot of recovery between, and you probably should, you should finish those workouts feeling like you have a ton left in the tank.
Exactly. The mistake we see is people going and they're like, oh, I only have 2 8-minute efforts, for example, and I've got 15 minutes of recovery in between. And again, there's a very general example here. Well, let's see if I can blow out these 8-minute efforts. And you've been doing, say, threshold work, and suddenly you go out and you're doing max 8-minute efforts that your body has not been doing. So don't do anything crazy that you have not been doing because you're feeling this lower training load and you want to see what you got.
Yeah, if you're like normal race pace is easy, if you're doing ultra events, your normal race pace is easy. Stick to easy.
Yeah, it's endurance. Yeah.
If your normal race pace, if you're doing a 40K time trial, is threshold or above threshold, then you're totally fine to do some threshold work with just a little bit extra recovery there.
Exactly.
So whatever you've been doing in the last couple weeks, those are the efforts you should stick with during those times that week where you should be doing race efforts.
Exactly.
Don't go kicking it way above race pace.
I think before we started this, you talked about the ultra marathoner going out and doing a track workout or something.
Yeah.
Like doing max 400s or something. That would be a bad idea.
Yeah, you've been doing crazy volume.
Yeah.
And basically you've been doing running and hiking, and now you decide to go and do a track workout the week before because it's so short. Why not, right?
Open it up a little bit.
Just blow yourself to pieces.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah,
that would be bad.
Idea.
That's a good way to destroy. That's a good way to not go in injury free.
Absolutely.
Especially in the running realm.
So within the 10-day period, now let's say we're through that weekend, we made it out of the weekend, and we're on race week. Race week is not a recovery week. I mean, you don't want
kind of is, but it isn't.
But you don't want your body to react to it like it does a full-on adaptation or recovery week, where you're just trying to unload a ton of fatigue, in a short amount of time.
Because typically in a true unload, there's very little intensity. Whereas on a race week, you still have the race-specific intensity.
Yep.
But again, you've just got extra recovery and not as many efforts.
It's short. Much shorter, but you're still telling your body, hey, this is the effort we're going to get ready to do here shortly.
Exactly.
So I don't want you to forget how to do it.
I always think of it like keeping the energy systems primed that you're going to use on race day is something you need to be doing on the week of the race.
And like according to I would say the research, the science, whatever you want to say, it's about 5 days of like off to really low intensity, easy effort, low workload, to where like detraining actually starts to happen. So you get into the last week, if your race is on a Saturday or Sunday, you can easily squander 5 days and come into the race not primed, not
the biggest risk there is just coming in flat.
Yeah.
Where your body's like in a hibernation state and it takes a while to wake up from hibernation. I mean, it takes a few workouts typically for most people to wake the legs and the body back up and let it know, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be able to to hammer down now. I
mean, personally, like, if we want to talk about shorter efforts, like for an Olympic or a sprint distance race, I'm on that 3-day drop in. So like on Tuesday, I'll still go do Hammerfest, and then it won't be until Thursday that I'll start to ease off to kind of, let everything.
Yeah, one thing to note, like, so I handle a lot of cyclists, and cyclists tend to have so many events that rarely do I have someone going through a taper like this.
Yeah.
And long course stuff where you're doing maybe 2 events a year, like some may do something in the spring, a half Ironman, for example, and then a full in the fall. It's a totally different situation. But for cyclists, I tend to still keep the same race week that we're talking about right now, where you're kind of getting back into it. But typically what I do is I just have them take a lighter week 2 weeks out, the week before race week. And then wake things back up and almost use that week as like their next week of training almost. So they go in fresh for the weekend, but the body's been primed. They've had efforts during the week. The body's awake again. And then, that weekend of racing is essentially week 1 of the next training segment going into, whatever the next race is going to be. But if you're racing back-to-back weekends or 3 weekends in a row, you can't take a massive taper. Otherwise, that detraining you were talking about can come into play. Like you cannot taper for every race if you're racing 15 weekends in a year.
No. And even for like triathlon, like a lot of people they'll pick, even if it's not a half or a full iron, like they'll target a specific one. And unless they are, there are some that race so much, it's almost like bike racing. I mean, you can literally race every weekend.
Like when you mentioned short course, it's like...
Yeah, people who are racing short course, there's not a lot of this going on, which is why we're keeping the conversation more geared around long course stuff. There's not really, unless it's a massive, like a really important race, Olympic distance, there's not a whole lot of like big tapering going on at all. So that's where like on those programs where you're like not really doing a ton of like compared to a iron distance plan, you're not really doing a ton of volume. So if you come off the gas 3 weeks, come off volume 3 weeks out, you're going to be flat as all get out by the time the race comes around. You can unload fatigue from a 10-hour, 11-hour week pretty quickly. Most people can.
Yep.
So yeah, there's just not a whole lot of tapering going on there.
So a little side note there.
Yeah. Pretty big side note there.
Yeah.
The big but here is, do you like big butts?
I cannot lie.
The big but here is if things go awry, doing too little is actually better than doing too much.
Yeah.
You don't want to get to the start line overly fatigued, mentally or physically. So too little, err on the side of too little. If you have question.
Yeah, you're better going in over-rested than overtrained.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so we got a few extra tips to help people not lose their mind.
Yeah, this is where we go to the mental side.
Kind of, take down the mental ping pong a little bit.
Yep.
Put the paddle down, and kind of help you get through that and not lose your mind. So, one thing that we always just tell people is, look, you're not going to lose fitness as long as you don't do nothing.
Exactly.
Like
3 weeks of nothing, you'll lose fitness.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, 2 weeks of nothing, you'll lose fitness.
Yeah. The sharpness will be gone.
Right. But if you're doing your best to stay on it, and if you have a plan, follow the plan, but you're not going to lose fitness from a drop in volume.
Correct.
The other thing is you will not gain fitness on race week.
The
really
week of the
out.
race, you're not gonna, and most of the science behind it, like a perfect taper, you're hoping to get that extra like 1 or 2% tops. So err on the side of not going too crazy or too mental on this whole thing. Don't worry about deviating too much. If you've never run through a taper, like just cut your volume out some. Strip out some of your the number of intervals you're doing, replace that with recovery, and you should be good to go. But I mean, we're not talking about you gaining 15% on race day.
15% happens in the off season.
Which goes into your race plan. Don't assume you're going to show up on race day 15% stronger. And that if you were ordinarily holding 200 watts, say that now you're going to hold, 245.
Especially for longer events, there is no way in hell that you're going to run faster, ride harder, swim faster than you have in your long training.
Yep.
It's not going to happen.
Yep.
So, that's where...
If you do, you didn't pace yourself right.
Yeah. Yeah. So make sure that you are practicing in this last few weeks. You're practicing the race execution. We've already kind of talked about that. You need to be practicing race pace, at race pace. Your nutrition, your hydration, everything that you can execute over and over and over, just like it will happen on race day, will stop the mental part of it because your readiness is going to be so much higher. I mean, that's really what we're looking for, is just race readiness. It can also be called confidence, is the number one thing that will help you mentally, on that race week or the couple weeks before. One thing that I will add is that you shouldn't mistake nerves for readiness, because everyone gets nervous, but it's really your body saying, I'm ready to go. I know what's about to happen. We've done the work. It's ready. It's time to go. It's kind of like when you're really have to go to the bathroom.
Long car trip.
Been there. And you know that you're getting close to a toilet.
Body knows. And it gets worse and worse.
It gets worse and worse and worse.
You're like, I thought I could hold it for 10 more miles.
Yep.
But we pulled into the parking lot.
now that we're here.
Turns out I was wrong. It is go time.
Your body knows when it's go time.
Yep.
So if you're feeling nervous, it's really because your body just knows it's about time to rock and roll.
Yep. And nerves aren't a bad thing unless you let it wreck you, mentally. I get nervous before my goal events all the time. Nerves are fine, and once you get out there, the nerves go away.
Yep.
Most of it's the anticipation of the event.
Yep.
But like you said, things that help the nerves go away or gives you confidence when you do get nervous is knowing that, you've put in the training, you did the big blocks like you needed to.
Yep.
You've rested and done your taper right, and you've worked on your fueling plan. Everything's in line. You're ready to go. Absolutely. So the more you've run through that in your training, the more confidence you'll have on race day. Then you just got to execute.
Another big thing is planning. I mean, I can't say it enough.
This also helps with the nerves.
Yes. Plan everything way in advance.
Yeah.
Especially if you have kids.
Oh.
If you're bringing kids to a goal race.
Yeah, plan to leave them.
Plan to leave them home. or Bryant.
Or
if you're
to
dad
make
of
this
the
a
year.
family friendly. Just kidding. That's a joke.
Not really. But if you have kids, make sure you plan ahead. Make sure you have the your travel. Are you driving? You flying? Where are you staying? Have it all planned out. Who's gonna watch these kids?
Yep.
How many kids you got? Who's
watching all those kids?
Are there things that they can do, fun stuff they can do while you're out there for however many hours? Plan those things out. Even especially if you're the person in the event and you have a spouse or a significant other that's going to be hanging on to all these chillins.
Yes.
If you plan in months in advance, things for them to do, that stress is off of you.
Yep.
And it's off of them. And so then they won't deflect their stress back on you.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. We're just pushing stress elsewhere.
Yeah. So plan it all. Logistical, you have to have it done. And I'm not talking a month out. If you're doing a Ironman and you've
signed up 9 months ago or
ahead,
more, yeah.
You should have that stuff figured out ASAP. It is the biggest difference maker for an epic style event like that. Just don't leave anything, to chance. Get it all done quick.
I would say the next one as well, the equipment.
Oh yeah.
Checking fine tuning, like don't wait till week of and run down. I don't care how much your bike mechanic likes you.
Yeah.
Don't go running down to the bike shop the week of, wanting to get everything looked over or adjusted or fine tuned.
Yeah.
Do that in advance as well, where you've had time to ride it. Ride your race wheels, make sure they're working. If you train on one set of wheels and then race on another, oftentimes the shifting is not quite the same. So make sure you're training on the setup you're going to have on race day.
Yeah.
That's going to help build your confidence.
Now, we're not condoning riding a disc wheel in a group ride, but
or are we? Or I've been wanting to do that, actually. Like put it on a road bike and show up looking like I'm at the track or something. I might do that today.
Go for it. So yeah, test everything. Check your gearing. You may have your last. If you're one of those people that rides a disc wheel and that thing only gets used on race day, your last race might have had like really tight grouping on it, and then this race you got some long climbs. You may want to check that cassette and make sure you got a 28 or something on the back. To make sure the gearing is set for what you're about to take on.
Exactly.
Do not wait until you.
But do that if you can do that as you start that. 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out.
Yep.
Start it then. If you need to replace gear, do it then.
Yep.
Like your shoes that you're going to be running in. Make sure you're not planning on like, oh crap, I haven't replaced my shoes in a long time. I'm going to put a new pair on for the.
Nope. You might as well go with the worn out ones. Unless it's really bad.
Yep.
In that case. So yeah, equipment is huge. Another big one is knowing the course. To me, like that's like a huge weight off your shoulders. Like, I can't stand getting to a race and not having any clue what to expect on the course. You can look over GPS maps all you want, but
the grade does not look the same in person, or
nor will
feel
it read the same.
Nor does it. Yeah, exactly. Nor does it ride the same or run this. Like, there's certain hills that you think are going to be bad and aren't because you're carrying speed to them, and others that look like they're not and turns out they are. So yeah, before you get there, if you're traveling, recon the course or research the course. When you get there, recon the course. Obviously, that means pre-riding the day before, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. When I went and did Ironman Lake Placid, there were people literally the day before riding the full loop. They didn't do the full like 112, but they did the full loop.
Like 50 something.
And there's like over 3,000 feet of vert on the loop.
Yeah.
The day before.
That's...
Jeez. Stop it, people.
Don't do that.
Stop it.
That would be a little too much.
But yeah, recon. Drive the course.
Yep.
You can
ride the run course.
You can ride the run course.
If possible, yeah.
If there is like a pretty serious climb on the course, I always recommend like going out, doing a little spin, and if it's not too long, actually going and riding the climb at an easy effort, just so that you can make sure that you have as much gearing as you need, and you can sustain. Seeing what
stay
kind of
in your
effort
power
you can
range. Yeah, stay within that effort level you want at the gearing and cadence that you want.
Yeah. So know the course, huge, massive.
Staying fueled and hydrated and not trying to lose weight in the last 10 days. Once we've always said like you should try to lose your weight in the off season. Yeah. Once you're undergoing, most people will lose some weight, when they're during the big bulk of their training. However, we want you fueling to perform. So you deciding like there's going to be a big benefit to being 5 pounds lighter and fasting, the week leading into your goal race.
Or not drinking fluids.
Or not staying hydrated, can be two detrimental things to your success on race day.
Yeah.
On the other side, going and trying to do like some massive carbo load the night before would be a bad thing. That would be changing what you normally do. So keep everything race week, what you're used to, what you normally do. And just that natural drop in training load is going to allow you to bump up your energy stores inside your body. Yep. And you should go in ready to rock.
Yep. Last but not least, we said it. We say it all the time. It's on the shirts.
Yep.
We own the domain name. Trust your training.
Trust your training.
You've literally, if you've done the work. If you haven't done the work, you should be worried. But if you've
Maybe
done,
that'll be our next one. Like, you've not done the work and it's 3 weeks out. What should you do?
We kind of did that for
Yeah,
a
we did.
marathon. We have an episode on last minute marathon prep.
The oh crap.
Yeah. We were going to name it oh
poop.
Yeah. So just, you've done the work. You've repeated the efforts that you're going to be doing. Just trust that you've done what you need to do and go out and cash in your chips.
And trust the efforts that you were doing in your training. Like, like we were just saying before, don't assume you're going to show up on race day and the body's going to have just this outer body experience where you're able to push a lot more than what you did in your training. Like, that's a big part of trusting your training is, okay, I trust that I know what I'm capable of. If I have a good day, I'm going to be able to push more late. But don't go out there like, I'm going to have a great day today, so I'm going to push 10% more than I've been doing, that I've shown I'm capable of.
Yeah, not going to happen.
Because that's going to really impact how you feel at the end of your event.
Yeah, we won't get
possibly
into,
compromise that. So just trust that work you put in, and trust the zones, we'll say, that you've been training at to be the ones that you should be executing on your race day.
Absolutely. And when in doubt, go by feel.
Or hammer down and just say, forget it.
Just
forget everything I just said. Just full gas, baby.
All right. That's all I got.
Yep. If you got questions, comments, concerns, feel free to put them on Facebook, on the YouTubes,
and
comments.
You can always email us at couch.
Yeah, it worked.
It works now.
It does. Couch at
buildpeakcompete.com. All right. We appreciate you guys hanging out, listening, watching. We will catch you all next time. Adios.
Peace.